Here we're going to go over installing a new spacer between your Zoot base and your Zoot arm. The spacer here is this rectangular tube that goes in between the two. We're going to be changing this to a 70 millimeter stacker spacer. You may be changing it to a different height, but the general process remains the same. Now, for the stacker spacer, it comes with a stacker kit, which basically has a stacker plate and 4 really long bolts. Now, for the spacer that we'll be combining it with we're going to be using a 50 millimeter spacer kit and combining it with the existing 20 millimeter spacer that's already there. So in your 50 millimeter spacer kit, you're going to have a zip tie and a cable tag. That means we'll be changing the cable tag here so there's an adequate amount of slack in these cables here so they don't end up getting pinched when the arm moves forward. Then there's the 50 millimeter spacer bolts. Now, these bolts are for if you're just installing a 50 millimeter spacer itself, but we'll be installing the stacker unit, so we won't be using these. And finally, you have the 50 millimeter spacer tube. So we'll be raising the arm by 50 millimeters from its current position. Other things you'll need is a 4 millimeter hex wrench. This comes with your Zoot kit when you initially installed it. If you don't have one, it's a 4 millimeter hex wrench. I'm also going to use some scissors here to cut the existing zip tie on the back of your cable tag right there. And finally, I have a towel here. So I'm going to be using the quick method, which means I'm going to leave the screen attached to the Zoot arm. I'm going to take that off and move it over here all as one unit. That's going to be heavy. You've got about a 20-pound screen here and a 20-pound arm there. That's about 40 pounds. So if that's too much weight for you, I suggest removing the screen first, then moving one at a time. All right, let's pull the camera in and I'll give you some details of the process. So here we are. We have everything set up and ready to go. The first thing to do is to remove the cable covers. Now I'm going to reach under the inside portion of these cable covers and I'm going to kind of pry them out. And then that'll release these two clips and you kind of wiggle them off and you get your cable covers off. Likewise over here, same process, the inside of the cable cover up and off. Now that frees up the cables here, and now we can move the screen. So now I'm going to take the 4 millimeter hex wrench, and there are 4 bolts under there. They're similar to these ones here, where they're black and the 4 millimeter hex wrench fits in them. Now, I can do this without looking, but I'm going to take off the front 2 bolts going towards the screen. So I'm just going to put this in here, and you're going to push clockwise on the underside here, and that loosens it. So I'm going to spin them like this, and they'll loosen up and come out. Once they're a little loose, I just use my fingers and thumb and loosen them up. And there we go. We got a bolt off. Now the other front bolt. Now I'm down to the last bolt. What I'm going to do here is when I loosen this one up, I'm going to make sure that my hands are on the top of the screen because it's most likely going to want to tip forward. I'm going to loosen it. Couple of turns loose. And then I'm going to just go with my fingers and I'm going to kind of wiggle this around a little bit to make sure that it's nice and loose. And there you go. Now it's just balancing there. Now what I'm going to do is, you don't want the screen to come tilting out while you're doing this. So grab on the bottom of the screen and the bottom of the arm here. I'm going to lift it up and put it zoot side down over here on this towel. So up it goes, over, and down. There you go. And I'll just spin it here. Okay. So now with the screen over here, we're going to loosen up the clamp here so that we can get the extra long spacer stacker bolts through the bottom of the arm and then stack the spacers together. And I'm going to take the top plate off and the spacer. Now I'll grab my spacer stacker, open that up, and I'll just take out the 4 extra long bolts. And while I can kind of tilt this up, I'm just going to put them through. Okay, so now that everything's there, I'll take the 50mm spacer and place it here. Then I'll take my spacer stacker, and it's kind of snug. I'm going to take this off and go around here. There we go. Pop, 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 and it's in. There we go. Then I'm going to put the existing 20mm spacer on there. Ready to go. Now I take my top plate and put that back on. All right, now we're ready to put the screen back on. So let me get my wrench there. I'm going to tighten this up again. Now I'm going to rotate the screen. I'm going to tilt it up, and holding the bottom of the screen and the arm, I'm going to go over here and bring it down so that these all pop in. Having to balance everything right now, I'm going to go to one of the back there we go, one of the back screws, and I'm going to tighten it by going counterclockwise. Now I'm going to put the hex wrench in and continue to go counterclockwise. There you go. And now it's feeding better. Okay. And now I'm just going to do the slow work of tightening this up. Okay, now it's not super tight, but the arm's not going anywhere. Now, what I can do is I'm just going to start out these. To ensure that you're not cross-threading, what I like to do is turn the screws clockwise to loosen while pressing up. While I do that, I'm going to keep pressing up, and there's a click. That means the threads are aligned right then, and it's safe to start screwing in. So with that, Now I've got them all a little tight. Now I'm going to go around again and make sure they're all snug. Okay, there we are. Now they're all snugged up. So what we're going to do is cut off the existing zip tie. Carefully, try and not get any of the cables. Now we'll get our new zip tie and cable tag. I'm going to put the zip tie through the cable tag. I'm going to point the cable tag here so it's going towards the screen. Then I'm going to go around the cable bundle and through the tag again. Now I'll kind of loosen, just loosely, put that there. What we want to do is put this cable bundle all the way down to desk level. And that, right at the point where it connects to the desk, we tighten up the cable tag there. So that ensures we have the right amount of slack to go into the arm there. Now I'll cut the excess off, and then I will put the cable tag into its little slot. Now I'll push the cables into the arm here, such that they fit nice and snug. Then I'll go with the double bubble cable cover, goes in the back. Thing that you're going to want to do is really push in here, such that it has all the slack it needs. I'm going to try and push that there, start it out. Now with that pushed, get my slack over there, put that down, move it over, come in, and then as you're going in, it's kind of make sure everything's there. Good. Now, second cable cover, single bubble, goes towards the back. Kind of line those cables up again. Here we go. I'm going to slide this one in here so it goes in the back. Check here. There we are. Coming in, and stuff a little more. Stuff. There we go. Pop. There we are. Now we just clean up and we're done. Now we have the 70 millimeter spacer here in the back. All right, that's how you install spacers in a Zoot arm the quick way. Another option to this is to totally take the arm cover off here while the Zoot screen is on the towel. Do your stacker lineup, press it against there, and install the stackers against the screen with the arms up over here. It's possible to do that, and sometimes it's easier, depending on your preference, to do it that way. I find that for the stacker unit type like this, it's easier just to hold the whole stack together with the weight of the arm when installing it. When it's just a single spacer here, it's easier just to take the whole mechanism here, put it together, put your screws on, and then put the screen and the arm system back onto the desk. All right, thanks a lot then.